We're going to look at Mackie's second argument for anti-realism today, which is his argument from queerness. Now, queerness, what he means by that is oddness, difference from the normal kind of state of affairs, that anti-realism is in some way something that doesn't fit with the other facts that we know about the world. I want to start, though, by presenting you with a scenario. So let's suppose that we have this kind of nice, and I say nice, even though I definitely drew it myself, you can tell, this nice scenery, and then the capitalists come along and they put a bank in that scenery. Here we go, here's our bank full of money inside. Then one day, bang, there are explosions within, and a robber escapes out the door with his treasure. Now, if you are a realist, especially something like an intuitionist, you think that not only are the facts of the bank existing and the day existing and the fire and the robber and the loot, those are facts in the world, you also think there's another fact here. And that other fact is the fact of wrongness. Mackie says, where? Where is it in that drawing? So let's start with Mackie's key idea. Mackie's key idea here is that anti-realism that fits with our understanding, with kind of with the facts. Whereas realism, the idea that there are moral facts in the world, realism doesn't. It just doesn't kind of cohere with our understanding of the world. So just to remind ourselves what realism and anti-realism are, realism says there are moral facts. So there are literally things in the world that are obligatory, especially if you are an intuitionist. And that's the kind of realism that that Mackie's talking about here. That there are kind of these moral facts exist in some way as objects that that we can observe through intuition. Whereas anti-realism, which is Mackie's view, the one that he's going to be arguing for here, says there are no moral facts. Now, in his book, Morality, Inventing Right and Wrong, this comes right next to his argument from relativity. It's in the next section along. So they're very much together as an argument. And please see our tutorial on the argument from relativity to see just how these two together cumulatively present the case. Now, just as with the argument from relativity, we've got the same format today. So I'm going to present you with premise 1 over here, and we'll just do a summary of the argument over here as we go through. Please feel free to read through that as we talk. Let's start with this. Premise 1, which is the first stage. Remember, premise is just a claim in an argument. Says that realism is weird. That's what he means by queerness. It's weird. It doesn't fit with our understanding of the facts. This is what Mackie says. Mackie says, if there were objective values, then they would be entities or qualities or relations of a very strange sort. So if there were genuine moral values, objective moral values, like in realism, they would be very strange indeed. utterly different from anything else in the universe. Okay, now that's really important. It's not just that they are odd, like you might go to a rainforest and find odd animals. They're fundamentally different to other things. So objective values, as he puts it, or moral facts, if they existed, if realism were true, would be completely different to other kind of other natural things. A little bit like if you found something that disobeyed the laws of gravity, right? You'd go, that doesn't make any sense according to our understanding of the universe. Maybe there's something going on there. So if we look back at our illustration from the beginning, right, we have these two kinds of things. We have in the world of the bank and the robber and the fire and so on, we have, atoms. And these atoms are kind of is category things. They exist in the world and you can speak of them as is. But if you're a realist, you think that there aren't just these atoms, there are also essentially these wrongness particles. And this wrongness, and now he does kind of almost jokingly talk about wrongness particles, but it is certainly going to be something like that if you're a realist. These wrongness particles contain not is statements alone, but they are ought. They require you to do things. So there's a fundamental difference between the atoms in the world and the other wrongness particles that would exist if you're a realist, especially an intuitionist. Mackie says that's very, very, very odd. It's very odd because that would be weird in the way that we know it. So it's distinctly odd in its existence, but also odd in the way that we would come to understand it. So we don't have a faculty for that, says Mackie. Realism just doesn't, he thinks, fit with our understanding of the universe. If you think about the way that we go about kind of approaching the world, well, fundamentally in epistemology, which remember epistemology is the study of knowledge, think about Plato and Aristotle and their division between empiricism and rationalism. You have the rationalist a priori thoughts over here and the a posteriori senses. Well, both of those are ways of kind of viewing the world, views of the world or thoughts. They are not ways of viewing kind of morality, right? So we don't have a kind of a concept of kind of knowledge acquisition for morality. So why would we need one? If there is another way of going about it. Now, Mackie says, look, if you are a kind of rational, sensible realist, your only option is to say, well, it's not a priori knowledge, it's not a posteriori, it's this other category, it's intuition. I just know. He says, well, that's essentially an empty theory. It doesn't provide you with anything. It doesn't tell you what the answer is. It's just a word. So Mackie says there is no way that we would know it, and they would be very weird if they existed. So it would make much more sense to say that realism is false and anti-realism is true. So in summary, the argument is this. If realism were true, it would be unlike anything else in the world. It would just be fundamentally different to all of the facts in the world as we understand them now. Premise 2, if there is no way, given what we know, to come to know... there is no way, given what we know, to come to know realist moral facts. So in our epistemology, there's no understanding of how we would gain knowledge of these moral facts. Epistemology, remember, study of knowledge. So premise 3, just to make this make some logical sense, if these two premises are true, then realism is false. So conclusion, realism is false.